Mr. Austin Healey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 9 months in preparation, and that was the best introduction you could manage. Have you gone? Well, welcome to Welford Road, the brand new stadium. This is the first time I've been here, which I should have been asked to the opening, bearing in mind my performance has pretty much paid for this to be built. What do you mean? 12 years of toil on that pitch. I sweat, I cried, I bled, most of my blood, my own time. Usually it was my own blood, apart from when Dino was the coach. I am actually third choice speaker today. Dean Richards was first choice speaker, but as you can imagine, Halloween is the best time to sell blood capsules, and he's got a lot left. Your second choice was the new head coach, Richard Cockrell, but you made the fatal mistake of writing to him. I believe he responded with a lovely crayoned-in picture of a cat. So today, push the button. It's all about, for me, preparation. And it's important to you, it's important to me as a sportsman, and just in general life, you have to prepare. And this is how I prepared for today. That's me on holiday in Dubai last week. There is a bit of message to this, actually. Not that you should turn a little bit lower on your right side, but never be afraid of falling. That was my mantra for life. Whatever challenge I was given, I was never afraid to take it on. And I think that if you attack something in life and you see it as a challenge rather than a problem, it's a lot easier to get back up if you do fall. Or, never be afraid of letting people see you fall, like I just nearly showed you then. For me, challenge is what it's all about. And today in the speech, that's really going to come all the way through. And I don't proclaim to know a lot about business. I've been involved in investment banking, and now I run a venture capital company. I'm not really affirming myself to you lot very well, am I? But I don't claim to know much about it. I've been a sportsman for the majority of my life. But what hopefully I will show you is a lot of experiences that you won't find too dissimilar to yours. And you'll be able to relate to them and hopefully draw from them. At this point, I did have a handout to give to you all from Anno Data, but it hasn't arrived on time. So I thought that would be funnier than it actually was. And I won't spend so much time researching your competitors in the future, to be perfectly honest. So, what is the day? Who gives a shit who Anno Data are? That's what you basically said, wasn't it? Actually, in that response, I've just gauged your exact comparison to Leicester Tigers. We didn't care who our competitors were either, because we knew whoever they were, we'd give them a right good kicking. So, today is all about push the button. And I wasn't sure what that actually meant. I was hoping it meant push Jensen Button off a cliff. Because he's a smug git at the minute, isn't he? All right, his car's faster than everyone else, he's got a yacht, he's got big watches and a model girlfriend. What a wanker. He was crap last year, and no one knew who he was. Anyway, I needed to do a bit of research. I went on your website to try and find out a bit about you, and it's quite clear that you need new buttons. Everybody knows you cannot win a quiz if your button is a drum. It's just not going to work. Now, I spent a lot of time on the website reading up, and you have had a fantastic number of years, and your growth is amazing, to be perfectly honest. But it's not just about your team. It's not just about the people. You need new buttons, as I've just shown. And you need partnerships. Now, playing for Leicester in England, we always felt that we needed partners to flourish and to expand as a team. I'll give you some examples. Clive Woodward had a lot of partners outside. He had a lot of chefs and different people that came in and helped our unit expand. And I used to think that the supporters actually were a real good partner of ours. I occasionally took this too far. I felt that they deserved to know what it was like on the inside. And occasionally, I got the name the Leicester Lip from being a little bit too honest. I wanted people who sit in the stand every Saturday to actually feel what it was like for me, what it was like for my teammates, so they became part of it. And then I think that made us a lot stronger as a brand. When we won the Cup in the European Cup in 2001, we didn't go to the post-match function. Dean Richards was the coach then, and all of our supporters had congregated in a bar just outside. There was a big plush post-match function. We'd had the trophy. It was worth a lot of money, and we were going to damage it, whatever. So we went straight out the door. We sneaked out. The board actually phoned us up whilst we were there. We sneaked out. We turned right, and they were all sat in this bar. And we spent 2 hours drinking out the trophy because it's about sharing your successes with the people that have made them for you, made them feel so special. And reading up on you, I've actually seen that you've just made a breakthrough partnership with Xerox. And I think that's fantastic. I don't know if you're aware, but Sir Clive Woodward worked for Xerox about 20 years ago, and he left. And since then, they've gone on from strength to strength. I shouldn't really take the mick out of Clive, because obviously nature's beaten me to it, but Clive was very important, actually. He brought out business principles that he'd learned at a good business and brought them into the England team when we really needed them. And he was all about empowerment and confidence. And basically, I'll give you some examples of this. Confidence, though, for Clive was a really big thing in the team. So, say before we played New Zealand, 99 World Cup, he'd come in, he'd give his speech, the lads would come in, night before a game, the flip chart would come over, he'd open the flip chart, and there was the New Zealand side, and there was the England team. And he'd go down them, he'd say, Christian Cullen, Matt Perry. Pezza, you're in on merit. We need that from you tomorrow. You're the rock, you're our foundation. Every one of these England players is in our team. Not one of theirs would get in our team. And he'd carry on. Jeff Wilson, David Rees. Rees, you scored a magical try for England last year. We need that from you tomorrow. We need that magic. We know it's inside you. You can deliver. Frank Bunce, Will Greenwood. Will, you're the brains of this back line. We need the right decisions at the right time. Take this team forward. Walter Little, Phil de Glanville. Phil, you're the hard man of this back line. Look at your face. It proves it. We need those hard yards from you tomorrow. Jonah Lomu, Austin Healey. Andrew Mertens, Paul Grayson. So he didn't instill confidence in all of us, but as you can imagine, I was a little bit perturbed by this. So I went back to my room and wrote my will. And then I thought, right, I'm going to go and get some advice from Clive, because he was about, like I said, he was about empowering players. And so I went and knocked on his door. His door was open. I walked in, and there was Matt Dawson getting out the shower. And did I hear that Northampton have got the best stadium in the country? What a crock of shit. You could fit their stadium in one of the rooms we serve food in here. Anyway, I've lost track where I was. Anyway, so Dorse left, walking like John Wayne, and I said to Clive, look, Clive, I'm playing against probably the second best rugby player in the world tomorrow. And thank you. I didn't think of it like that, but thanks. And I want to know how to get him down. He said, well, Oz, if he goes on the outside of you, go low, wrap both your arms around one of his calves, get him to the ground, hopefully the big guys will get there, we'll jump on the back, someone will have a toffee arm in the sock, we can knock him in the temple, knock him out, that'll be the end of it. I thought, brilliant, well worth £500,000 a year in a knighthood. What if he steps on the inside of me? He said, if he steps on the inside of you, jump on his back, put your hands over his eyes, go for a bit of a ride, wait for Johnson, Leonard, Delalio to get there, the big guys, we'll get him on the floor, punch him in the face, knock him out, that'll be the end of it. OK, Clive, I'm a professional sportsman. If he goes either side of me, I can avoid those tackles and you'll never know. What if he comes straight at me? He said, well, Oz, if he comes straight at you, bend down on the pitch, pick up some shit, throw it in his eyes, jump on his head, punch him in the face, knock him out. I said, Clive, we're playing on possibly the best pitch in the world tomorrow. Where am I going to find some shit? He said, trust me, Austin, if he's running straight at you, there's plenty. And my confidence was rebuilt. So, no, but I truly believe that. Confidence is the one thing in life, in business, in sport, you cannot fake. It is the hardest thing to get. Now, as a business, you have momentum, you have confidence. It's what you do with it from here on in. And you're very much similar to Leicester Tigers, where when we played, we were winning things, but we didn't know how to keep going and getting better. And that's really where I'm moving on to now. You build that together. As a team, you constantly affirm confidence. And we had this thing, as I said before, I got in trouble for speaking out. We had this thing at Leicester Tigers and with England called Ring Fence the Brand. And what we did with that was, we had our own problems, we had lots of them, but we never let the outside world see what they were. So when teams used to come to Welford Road, they used to think everything was rosy because we would never wash our laundry in public, basically. No one ever knew what issues we had. We had loads of problems. You know, coaches, players who wouldn't eat the blood capsules, loads of issues that nobody ever found out about. And more often than not, our competitors were fearful of us, even though we had problems, purely because they saw this ring fence of greatness, which is what this place has been created on. But it's not just about that. I think as an individual and a team, you need to be inspired. You need to have inspiration. And to be fair, people ask me about inspiration. Who are you inspired from? I just think it comes from everywhere and anywhere. Sometimes it can come inside. I've cried watching Rocky films because I was getting inspired by it. I don't know why I told you that. But I did. I remember I got injured and I was on holiday in plaster, and I thought my career was over. And I was bawling my eyes out watching a Rocky film, right? And it just suddenly flicked a switch somewhere, pushed a button. Whatever it was, I knew that I could come back from it and gain strength. I've been inspired by teachers that have told me that I'd never achieve anything by hitting them. And you know, I remember things that were said to my parents. You want to make your parents proud. And I think that was my real driving force, and whether some of you can draw comparisons, it's about making your peers and your friends proud of what you've achieved. There's no greater feeling than being stood on the top of Everest after you've done something, you've won a big contract, or you've won a big game. There is no better feeling, because you know that everyone else is thinking, oh, well done. Most people won't say it to you, especially if they want your job, but they all say, well done, inside. And the inspiration for me, it was difficult because after winning so matches for my club and country, I knew it was going to come to an end eventually. And I went to work for Credit Suisse in investment banking. Actually, I made people small fortunes, provided they started with bloody big ones. And started the credit crunch, and then I knew it was time to leave. So I went into TV commentating, and the inspiration from this came from a very bizarre place. I was in the developing world in Melbourne, and I was sharing a room with an amoeba called Matt Dawson, and on the TV, a great commentator came on, a guy called Richie Benno. Have you heard of him? And he sounded a little bit like this. He said, "G'day and welcome to the MCG." He'd spent a lot of time growing up in Liverpool as a kid. Not many people know that, actually, but g'day and welcome to the MCG. What a marvellous day's cricket we have in prosperity today. And in the booth is Mercurial, the magical Viv Richards. And don't you think it's just beautiful, Viv, that after scoring 222 last week in Sydney, Brian Lara had the birth of a baby girl? And don't you think it's just beautiful, Viv, that after scoring that 222, he can call that baby girl Sydney to mark that momentous occasion? And isn't it just beautiful, Viv, that he can score 222, have a little baby girl, and call her Sydney from that marvellous city where he scored those runs? And what do you think about that, Viv? And Viv Richards said, "Well, man, I'm just glad he didn't score it in Lahore." So, as I said, you need to take it from anywhere. And I was inspired. You shouldn't laugh at your own jokes. Well, that's fine, because that wasn't mine. I stole it. But seriously, it's so important. A small word and a bit of understanding of your colleagues and your teammates can be so different and really affect big change, especially in the last 24 hours. Just words. Now, I wrote that there because I don't actually believe in motivational speaking. I really don't. I think a lot of it is from the inside. It's from the environment that you create, the environment you work in. Some sportsmen coming up here and telling you about what they achieved, you may be able to draw comparisons from. But to be quite frank, if I was a sales director or a salesman on the floor there and I'm trying to tell you about something, I'm going to be sat there thinking, you're a cock. I know how to do my job, but I'm being quite honest with you and quite frank. I mean, I still think I should get paid. But the truth is, it comes from inside and around you. And, you need to have the knowledge of knowing when to say something, because it can have a massive effect, especially in the last 24 hours before a big game or a pitch, when the pressure starts to mount. Now, pressure is a word I want to concentrate on, because I don't believe it exists. I really don't. I think it's something that other people try to do to you to make you perform less well. And I used to have this saying, control the controllables. Always look after the things you can control. Don't worry about someone else trying to influence you, because all they're trying to do is either put you off or put you off your game. So, for example, I'd come to a stadium on a game day and I had an absolute written ritual where I had 24 hours where I knew exactly what I was doing at 7:30 in the morning all the way through to the game. Now, the only reason I did this was because I didn't want anything to influence what was going to go on before. And this ritual took 5 years to develop, 5 years of success and failure, learning from each one to know what to do. And those written rituals that you carry on through, some people say they're superstitions, they're not really. There's something that get you in the mindset to definitely deliver, because that's what it's about. You get one shot at a game on rugby. You may get one shot at selling whatever you sell or doing whatever you do on occasions. Was that funny? Or you get 2 shots. Right, okay. Fine. But the key is the experience and the knowledge of knowing what to say at the right time. Martin Johnson is a well-known leader. He's now in charge of England. He was the greatest captain this club's ever had, and probably England have ever had. And I'll give you an example of one of the prime occasions of that. We were playing in the 2001 European Cup final in Paris, next door to Stade Francais ground. We're right in the thick of it, full of Frenchmen. I mean, worst possible scenario you can ever imagine. No French here, is there? Good. And Dean Richards stood up on the coach. He said, right, guys, let's go. The coach has pulled into the stadium. We walk off. No one, not one person, said one word before the game kicked off. Not one word. Now, you can feel the silence here now. You imagine that over an hour and a half building up, and everyone's waiting for Martin Johnson to speak. Everyone's waiting for him to say something. And he didn't say a single word. He just looked at every single person's eyes in the room. Not one word. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but honestly, I looked in some of the players' eyes. I mean, I was dicking around in the shower doing my hair and stuff, but this one. And I couldn't believe it. I went out. Darren Garforth, who was our prop, was headbutting a hole in the wall. Richard Cockrell was colouring in. And no, but seriously, I know I make a joke of it now, but it was the most intense situation I've ever been in my life. And we went out and we won the game in the last minute by a break by a genius. And, you know, I think it all stemmed from that, knowing when to say something and when to say nothing. That is vital. The last 24 hours, if you know someone who's sat next to you on a desk is going to do something special, and you know them really well, and you can see that maybe they're slightly nervous, or maybe they're struggling to cope, you know, you have to work out what pushes their button. You have to give them a helping hand. It's what teams are about. Here we had lots of individuals in a team, but we all bonded with one common goal, which was success. And so you have to work out how to do it. Now, I've been in some unbelievably scary situations. The scariest situation, bar Darren Garforth headbutting the wall, has to be Strictly Come Dancing. I hated every single minute of Strictly Come Dancing, right up to the point I met my professional partner. But I've lost track. Right. I haven't lost track. I was thinking about her boobs. I wasn't really. I'm married with 4 kids. But what I'm trying to say by this is that I went into that knowing that I couldn't dance, knowing that I was going to be going out in front of 12 million people. And what I tried to show you with the video at the start is don't be afraid of doing something that you've never done before. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that it might be more difficult. The reason I showed you the water skiing thing was I went on holiday last week with my children, and I had an hour daddy time each day, where I learned how to water ski. So realistically, you can achieve anything. The last 24 hours for me on there was my sort of climbing up a mountain, realising that I'd achieved something and learned how to do it from scratch. Strictly Come Dancing was exactly the same. Complete and utter fear. The first time. You walk out, you're stood backstage, and they call your name. Will Austin Healey and Erin Bogue please take to the dance floor? And you just think, shit. And then you go out and dance, and then you start to enjoy it, and it becomes easier. A lot of people often ask me what it's like. What is the pressure situation? And I said, oh, I don't believe in pressure. They said, well, describe a 24 hours playing for England for me. And it's too difficult to encompass all the emotions, because playing for England was truly amazing. So many different, I mean, there's a lot of Celts that say that, marvellously misspelt word, that say that, as Englishmen, we can't possibly win this game because we're not as passionate as them. I hated that. Complete and utter rubbish. So the best 24 hours, it sums up everything, happened again in the developing world. We were in Cardiff. And isn't there some, does Amir Lewis work for you? Is he here? No, obviously not. He does, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. Is he here? No. No? Good. Right. To be perfectly honest, he wouldn't recognise this side of me anyway. He'd only sort of know this bit here. Can you pass that on to him when you see him? Because he's a big fella, and I don't really want to offend him. But so we're in the developing world, and we're just about to play against Wales, open the new Millennium Stadium. Clive Wood gives his pre-match speech the night before, and then he leaves with the rest of the coaches, and Martin Johnson stands up to make the speech that we all pay attention to. And he says, look, guys, it's been in the press this week that they're going to dominate us, they're going to open a new fortress, they're going to intimidate us, they're going to hurt us. And I want you guys to know, to get to you, they've got to come through me. Now, I was quite pleased with that decision he made, because he's one hard fella. And he said, what we're going to do is we're going to go out into Cardiff and we're going to show solidarity, strength of character, and we're going to find a good restaurant. Okay, we're going to go out into Cardiff and we're going to find a restaurant and we're going to eat and show how strong we are, that we will not be moved. We will not be moved. So we went out, found this Italian. Lawrence Delalio was at the head of the table, not our table, another one, with some prostitutes. And I was sat next to Jason Leonard, and I said, so, Jace, what are you going to have? And he said, well, I think I'm going to have the Peggione. I said, that's page 1, Jace. On the other side was a guy called Graham Rowntree. You may have heard he's recently voted man most likely to marry outside his own species. And he said, Austin, what are these? I said, they're knives and forks, Graham. You use them with the food. Anyway, the food arrived. Matt Dawson was across the other side of the table. I said, oh, you like Scampi, do you, Dawson? He said, yeah, I like all Walt Disney films. So, went back to the hotel. We got up in the morning. Clive actually got us up. For the first time, he said, right, 9:30, I want you all outside. We've got a very important meeting, day of the game. Again, a ritual that Clive developed. We all get outside in the group. He goes, right, fellas, today, the weather is going to be like this. Put my hand up and I said, Clive, there's a roof on the stadium. He said, Austin, if you speak again, you'll never see it. That's true. So anyway, we get to the stadium. That wasn't very fun.